The Chaser Report is recorded on Gadigal land.
Striving for mediocrity in a world of excellence. This is the Chaser Report.
Hello and welcome to the Chaser Report. I'm Charles Firth, and with me today is Dom Knight.
Correct.
And John Delmenico.
Hello.
The new Chief Content Delivery Quality Comedy CEO, Head of Marketing, etc. at the Chaser.
Yeah, this is like my 10th job at the Chaser. So far, none of them have involved like a pay rise.
Do we pay you?
I think 3 of them involve the word manager. I've gone from a correspondent to an intern, which is a down, and then
That's because you wanted to be.
Yeah, that is
intern,
because I wanted to be.
Yeah.
How many people as a manager do you manage?
Theoretically, I'm supposed to manage the marketing, but so far, nobody who we've asked to actually like at least tell me when they're going to market something has done that, which is why we've changed my role name, is that it just didn't work because when we tried to have me managing one person.
I liked it.
And that one person being Charles.
Yeah, and I don't take direction.
I like that the way the Chaser's evolved over the years is to not only become a comedy producing organisation, but also a joke of an organisation.
Well, I've come on today not to talk about my new role.
All right.
That's probably good.
Yeah. I'm talking about a different issue in my career, which is that, so for anyone who's read the shot last year, because I haven't bothered doing it this year, there was a period where I was doing youth issues at the problems at the shot.
Yeah.
And during
I read those.
I was calling for there to be more youth journalists because from Gen Z, at the time, there was like 4 of us. There was me, friend of the show, Leo Puglisi, Lavender Badge, and then Yasmin Poole. All 4 of us, as respected as each other in the industry. No problems. Clearly.
Yes. Respect is a very strong word.
No, he said as respected.
Yeah, right, yeah.
It's a scale that goes from 0 to 100.
You're as respected as a 14-year-old schoolboy.
Yeah.
So, yeah, okay.
But then the problem's been that the other outlets have actually hired more Gen Z. Like people like Billy Fitzsimons, who's already an editor, because like she worked up to doing that, which is unfair because what about the rest of us who didn't work up to doing that?
Yes.
And then a bunch of other places like The Guardian recently hired some young people as well. And then all of them immediately are now doing like TV, other podcasts, and Triple J, and I've missed out.
Oh, no.
So it may...
You've become the Dom of the next generation.
Were you not full? Did you at any point think that working for the Chaser in 2022 would lead to glory and opportunity? Isn't the writing on the wall, or rather on the website, that doesn't make any money?
Yeah, I have made a lot of errors, and then also thinking about it, I can't really beat those people in terms of like journalistic merit anyway.
Well, I mean, Billy Fitzsimons is a great example. All you need to do to be Billy Fitzsimons, who I'm sure is wonderfully talented, just get Lisa Wilkinson and Peter Fitzsimons to adopt you.
Yes.
And
yes,
that may help. I'm not saying she didn't get there on merit.
No.
Because she's from Gen Z, so I don't read her stuff or care.
No.
But that's one way to do it.
Does she write about how she affords to rent her family mansion?
Has she written an article, OMG, my dad's fucking bandana? Because I would read that. He doesn't wear that anymore, by the way. He's embraced his baldness.
I don't know exactly what the others write, but I know most of it's good because from what I have seen.
Okay.
Because they've had career progression,
Yeah.
is your point. Yeah.
So, John, what is it, A, that you want, and B, that you think there's any hope in hell that we can offer you?
Yeah, how do you remake yourself to sort of be relevant to 2022?
So I realized the thing that I was doing that no one else, that the others weren't doing because they were doing like proper journalism and fact checking was I was just like giving a youth perspective. But then I had a look at old media outlets and realized I was going from the wrong angle. No one wants to hear young people's perspectives on what young people are dealing with.
Yes.
They want to hear the perspectives that get the boomers angry
Yes.
and the boomers interested.
Yes.
So I went through old media and started finding topics I didn't even realize were issues for Gen Z.
Right. So what you want is the boomer angle on Gen Z.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
So we don't actually want genuinely to know what you think or your experiences are.
No.
We just want to know a bastardized sort of stereotypical version of it so that we can get angry. Oh, that works. I mean, I'm not a boomer, but I'm closer to boomers than I am your age, I think. So, bring it on.
When I thought boomer, I thought Channel 9 because they're the oldest.
Yes.
They're the highest average age of a TV host and the whitest. So that's where I found out through the Channel 9 papers about the threat to Gen Z called Fran Kelly.
Oh, yes.
That there's this person called Fran Kelly who apparently is just going around stealing young people's jobs.
Yes.
And she's causing us all to have issues throughout an entire entertainment industry.
Yes.
Is all her fault specifically.
Yes, because we shouldn't blame the systemic defundisation of the ABC over the last 10 years. We shouldn't blame the fact that the government pulled $1.6 billion out of the ABC, which means that there's only one show left on the ABC.
Yeah.
We should blame Fran Kelly for taking that one show from the Gen Z. Is that your argument?
Well, that's the argument that the media's taken. So obviously that's my argument.
Yes, good.
And because I was looking at it and I was confused because I was like, oh, she's not going to bring in young audiences at 9:30 p.m. on a Friday night. And I was like, 9:30 p.m. on a Friday night on the ABC is not really when I'll be thinking young people are going to be tuning in.
Mind you, I'll tell you what, Chase's War and Everything.
Yeah.
That started in that time slot.
It did start there. Yes.
Yeah, I've learned that because that's in every single article.
Oh, really?
But it only started there. It's only started there because they had The Fat, which was quite successful. It's a sports comedy show. And then Tony Squires, the host of The Fat, was poached by commercial TV to do a different show. And with the budget that they had, they got us to do the War and Everything as cheaply as possible for the price of a fairly underpaid talk show. So that's the only reason. It was never a good idea to put us on Friday night. It was just that was the slot that was. Although just on Fran Kelly, what an amazing thing for a woman to have a talk show. That has literally never happened before in the history of television. Yeah, so it depends on the perspective you look. It's actually quite progressive in a weird way.
Yeah, I saw that point because people got mad at ABC for this defense where somebody pointed out that she is the first woman over 60 to land a hosting gig like this in Australia, and that usually she would have just been kicked off TV by now. But
she was kicked onto TV. That's the weird thing.
Yeah.
But wait a minute, where did you read? Because it sounds like, I mean, I'm not across the Fran Kelly controversy.
Oh, there was one op-ed piece that I read that too.
But was that, and that was in 9. I would have thought that sounds like a Murdoch-style hit job, doesn't it? Like, because isn't the whole thing that the ABC can never do right? So if you design a show that will only be watched in an old person's time slot and put an old woman in there to host it, then you're wrong because actually Gen Z should have had that slot, or it should have had it somewhere else.
So Channel 9 did multiple articles and a podcast episode about this issue like 2 months ago.
I've read one.
And then News Corp jumped on it.
Wow.
Which then
News Corp.
Which then led to Ida Buttrose responding terribly. Like she was like, oh, it's ageist and we already give Gen Z enough content and give them enough opportunities as it is. If anything, we're giving them too many. It's time to give older people a shot.
Yes, I agree.
Which,
yes.
Like, again, at first I was like, that's silly, but now I obviously 100% agree.
Yeah, you agree with that.
And then it kicked it off all again, and then the show started.
I love how, like, it's not that actually it's a systemic problem. We shouldn't be fighting over the scraps. I love it how even the chairperson of the ABC, Ida Buttrose, can come through and have a really shit take.
Yeah.
Well, I must say, the idea that Gen Z would even want a TV show on linear television is bizarre. Like it's going, would you young people like to work at the Dinosaur Museum?
From there, I was like, because again, I was like, oh, I didn't even know Fran Kelly existed. What else am I not even missing out on because I'm not looking at that area of TV?
This is the strangest thing about the article. Yeah. So many people who read that article would have been gone, Fran Kelly? Who's Fran Kelly? Like the woman who hosted RN Breakfast for, I think, 17 years, was listened to by almost all the kind of top opinion makers in the country who run media organisations, but almost nobody else, right? Let's be frank. It's not. Let's speak frankly.
But I loved Fran.
I know you did because you run a media organisation.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah. Oh yes, I'm a titan of media.
When all this went down, I asked quite a few people in my life what they thought about Fran Kelly and if they were fans, and the majority of them had never heard of Fran Kelly. Not only didn't listen to her, but the name meant nothing.
So does this suggest that we shouldn't be doing an entire podcast episode about Fran Kelly?
It does suggest that I am trying to move. I have tried to move away twice.
Okay, let's move on.
We only want to talk about Fran Kelly because we're part of the problem in this environment.
So going from there, I was like, what else can I learn about issues facing Gen Z that Gen Z doesn't know about?
Yep.
So then I went to Channel 10 because Todd Sampson had a 2-part documentary series on this issue and the internet. And it was great because I was almost immediately met with this.
The earlier or younger that you start using the internet or using devices, more likely you are to be diagnosed with ADHD. That's an attentional disorder, and that's increasing, correlated with device use.
Right, so immediately, that's very early in their documentary, which is a very quick, like, oh no, Gen Z's getting ADHD from this. Except they said correlated there, which is true that there is a correlation, because correlations don't mean anything, and this has already been proven wrong by scientists multiple times.
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
correlation in the sense of correlation is not necessarily causation. That sort of correlation.
Yeah. So there is a correlation, but at the exact same time.
Yes, because what it's saying is that people who have ADHD really like their phones in the same way that people who have phones really like their ADHD.
Yeah, but in the same way that people who don't have ADHD also use their phones the entire time.
The Chaser Report. Less news, less often.
What scientists say the actual thing that's leading to this correlation, which they don't mention at all, is that alongside this correlation is the other correlation that is probably the reason why the diagnosis has gone up by about 50%, which is that testing amongst women has gotten increasingly better, and because they went from not believing that ADHD almost doesn't exist in females and realizing, no, it's the same rate as men, and just changing the testing. And that led to a nearly 50% increase in diagnoses at the same time as that one, which 100% just makes sense of what it is. But I realize the best way to talk about Zoomer issues is to just say things that might be true.
Yes.
And if you just don't assert it as a fact, that's fine.
And if you use the word correlation, you can say anything.
And then immediately, the whole documentary, they kept talking about how misinformation is rampant online and people use fear to scare audiences for their own financial gain and keep people interested.
While simultaneously saying, you probably have HD from your screens and watching this on. Okay.
Yeah, so we'll listen to the next clip.
I wanted to warn them to say, don't go on this site. It's dangerous. It's filled with pedophiles and criminal activity. OnlyFans successfully blurs the line between online influencer culture and pornography, which is why it's growing in popularity amongst kids. Today, we're conditioned to salivate at the sound of a beat. Nearly half of Replica's users now see their chatbot as a romantic partner.
Do they?
The scary part is, we're just at the beginning of what this technology will become.
Is this the Reverend Fred Nile?
Can I also just point out, Todd Sampson, a bit young to be having a TV show. I think he's in his 50s rather than his 60s, but we'll let it pass. He's the new generation of TV presenters.
So if you're if you're wondering if he cited sources,
where is this airing? This show,
Channel 10. This is a 2-part documentary series that they've been advertising for literally months.
Oh, right. And he moved from the ABC to Channel 10, which doesn't have as rigorous a fact-checking policy. Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah, so literally at no point throughout the entire 2-part documentary does he cite a single source. Yeah, he just says things that are true. At multiple points, they have text come up on screen that have facts, but they don't source for that either. So there was one that said most Gen Z people's friends are strangers they've met online and they don't know, and they said that their source for that was most experts agree. So they're basically pulling like a 9 out of 10 dentists agree with this stat.
It's actually proven that most experts agree that saying most experts agree means that your claim is bullshit.
Yeah,
most experts say that.
They also said TikTok trends, including the cinnamon challenge and planking, are causing real harm.
Planking?
Yeah,
planking's good for you.
Planking's something personal trainers get you to do.
Planking is a 10-year-old trend. It was a trend on YouTube and Facebook 10 years ago, but they're citing it in this as a TikTok trend today.
John, I think you've created a straw man here, because doesn't Todd Sampson come from the advertising industry? Shouldn't we just not trust anything that he says anyway?
Yeah, that is something they constantly push through. It's you can't trust anyone from the advertising industry,
including me.
But the other thing I learned about how to do this type of journalism really well is even if you don't get the information that you want from the person, you can just twist it in the edit. Like when he was talking to an OnlyFans girl, this happened.
How much do you think loneliness plays a role?
Oh, big one.
In the customers?
Yeah, a big one.
So in some ways, you are a kind of cure for loneliness for a lot of people. Yeah. I can't help but wonder, is it the cure or is it the cause?
So the information he was given was that lonely men sometimes go to OnlyFans to try to make a connection. But instead he twisted it into this weird incel argument that OnlyFans is turning men lonely.
But I would also point out that if you're just listening to that, like when you're talking about OnlyFans, the phrase big one out of context really could mean anything.
So obviously this is all really scary, but I found there's a whole other angle to Gen Z news that I hadn't even thought of, which is really happy news.
Can I just, sorry,
I'm
just going to, did he happen to depict sort of sexy women as part of this documentary? Like, was she on screen chatting and
he interviewed her and helped her shoot one of her videos.
So there was a bit of prurient interest in Todd Sampson. So you know what I think? I think lonely men are tuning in to Todd Sampson's documentary.
Yeah.
To just because that's causing loneliness, John.
Well, Charles, I'm surprised you're criticizing this because he said that people who are criticizing it just don't have kids, so they don't understand what the problems are. But
I've got kids.
Yeah. So moving on from the bizarreness of Todd Sampson, I have happier news that you can also use. Like Pedestrian announced that climate change is solved. And that we just never need to worry about it again.
You mean the Nine Entertainment-owned Pedestrian?
Yeah, their youth brand.
Yeah.
Have an article about how Anthony Albanese has saved the day and how his climate policies are in line with the Paris Agreement, and we never need to worry about it again. With an exact quote at the end of the article saying, "If you've been feeling weighed down by climate news, keep this bad boy bookmarked as a little reminder of what's on the way. We all need a bit of hope sometimes."
This is why you don't want to work as the Gen Z or Z correspondent, because you got to use phrases like "keep this bad boy bookmark." Because I don't know if every time you read a youth writer, they can't write in normal language. They've got to use youth lingo to prove that it's like Pedestrian drives me nuts.
It has to also be youth lingo that convinces your older executives that you're using youth lingo.
Yeah,
so
it can't be actual youth lingo, which I wouldn't understand any of the words.
Yeah,
it's just things that. Yeah, Peter Costello will think, the youth site's being very youthy.
Now, this might shock you. Something that both Pedestrian and New Daily do a lot is they do ad posts. So this whole article about Anthony Albanese's climate policy is paid for by a company. Do you want to guess who's paid for this?
Is it the Australian Labor Party by any chance?
No, it's Colgate.
I was just going to say, what? I was going to say it's the coal lobby, but you're saying it's Colgate, as in the toothpaste manufacturer.
What? This is the paragraph about Colgate. As much as we try our darndest to make our individual habits more sustainable, blah, blah, blah. Take Colgate, for example. Knowing that over 1 billion toothpaste tubes are chucked out per year in the US, they've developed a recyclable tube. So... it's like,
so we don't have to worry about the environment because Anthony Albanese's there, and we don't have to worry about our toothpaste tubes because Colgate's there.
Yeah,
and I have to worry about the journalism ethics, though.
So from there,
I'm worried about that.
From there, I looked at the other happy news for Gen Z, which annoyingly seems to all focus around the metaverse, which is the worst thing ever. Like, so they added legs in, and they've got under 200K users worldwide.
Yeah, I thought we'd already been established that the metaverse was a bad joke, which I could have told you, John, based on a little thing called Second Life, which came out about 20 years ago and was equally shit.
Well, even worse than that is this headline. Samsung is bringing The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon to Fortnite as it looks to connect to Gen Z in its latest move into the metaverse.
Wow.
So these are the happy stories. And then there's this press conference that is real from Roblox.
Hey, everyone. For those of you who may not recognize me as a Robloxian, I'm William White, Chief Marketing Officer at Walmart. And welcome to Walmart Land.
What?
So, yeah, that's a Chief Marketing Officer giving a press conference to one person inside of Roblox and saying, you might not recognize me in my Roblox form, but I'm the Chief Marketing Officer of Walmart, someone who no one can recognize. Do you want to guess what Walmart Land is?
It's a giant Walmart store?
Giant Walmart.
We are so excited for you to explore and enjoy one of Walmart's newest digital experiences on Roblox, making the best of Walmart's aisles virtual.
John, you know what?
Yeah.
Back in the day, the ABC did try to reach young audiences. They did try to innovate. They did try to get people like you with new ideas to do new things. And that led to the creation of ABC Island in Second Life, which is an island shaped like the ABC logo, which was quickly hacked And I think it was infiltrated with hardcore porn. And after that point, the ABC never, ever hired a young person to do anything ever again. And that's why you can't have a job.
That's good. Yeah, I mean, the whole segment has really just given me a lot more dread, except for the climate stuff, which I now know I don't have to worry about anymore. Which is, I guess, the main takeaway is my life isn't going to be ruined by climate change now. It's going to be ruined by literally everything else.
I think I'm with you on that. I think that's a good summary. I think
that's a relatively optimistic and encouraging outlook for you, John, compared to continuing to work at the Chaser.
Our gear is from Rode, and we're part of the Acast Creator Network, and we apologise to John.
Okay, Boomer.